Hi and welcome back to Lady Tradie. I'm going to talk you through a job today that is a long time in the making. I started this about 18 months ago, so it was one of the first things I did when I bought this property, but I held off making the video until it had time to grow and you could see the final result. So what I'm doing is making a beautiful flower garden, something with native flowers as well as some imports, but also things that attract the wildlife. So I always have butterflies and bees hovering around, and it's really good for the environment. So the first thing that I want to do is I found a strip of garden that gets half light, half sun throughout the day, but it is just full of a clover type of weed. So what I want to do is cover it all up with a really good nutrient-rich topsoil, and then I can start making my garden. So what I did to begin with is I don't like to poison. I don't like that the poison sticks around underneath where I'm planting things where my kids could play. So I wanted to use some weed matting. Now, to do this on a budget, I am using newspaper as my weed matting, so a really thick pieces of newspaper underneath the soil. What it does is it smothers the weeds and kills them, as does the soil that I'm placing on top, but it stops those weeds from growing up back through. It also traps a bit of water, which helps with new plants getting started. So as you can see, I am laying a good inch or two of topsoil across the whole strip of this garden bed. And I'm laying the paper and then adding the topsoil at the same time so that the newspaper doesn't blow away. Now, it was a hot day when I was doing this with my son. He was a fantastic help and we got it done relatively quickly. Where the soil was dumped in my front yard, I'm just hosing that down so the grass pops back up through that as well. So now that I have this nice fresh bed, I am ready to start gardening and also putting in some stepping stones and paving as well. This entire garden is going to be done with cuttings or parts of plants I've taken from other homes or I've relocated from this home. I think in the entire garden I only bought 2 plants. So as you can see here, I'm taking this out of something I repotted from a previous home. These are really common around Queensland at the moment in Australia. It's just a native daisy. They're really hardy in hot weather. They love water and they flower beautifully when there's lots of rain about, but they also thrive in warm weather as well. Now these guys shoot off heaps of runners, and that's how they spread, and over time these will end up spreading throughout the entire garden. I've got a whole range of these, so I've taken snippets of a number of different types of these daisies so that I have a mixture of colours towards the end. I've also got some spider lilies here on the left that I've transplanted from another location where they were not doing so well. So it doesn't look like much right now, but in a really short time, this will be a beautiful, thick, lush garden. The next step is to do the paving. So I'm just lightly laying these down roughly where I'm going to step before I put them in properly. Now I have another video that helps go through how to level and do paving properly, and I did that for every single one of these. I've done about half of it so far. So just to explain some of the things. Again, I'm using a string line just so that the edge of the pavers lines up with that string line. So making sure that it's the correct measurement, the whole length of the string line. That gives me a guide to push the pavers up against. There's a few other things as well to make life easier. So the first is use some chocks. So I have this which I'm using as the distance in between. So instead of measuring all the time and to keep it uniform, I just use that in between each pave so I know that it's the correct distance. And I have another chalk which I'm using as the distance between them in this direction. So the gap between each of those is the same as well. Before I decided on this distance, I paced it out to see what was comfortable. So you want to make sure that it's a comfortable walking step in between each pave as well. Also, when you're laying them, use a level. So as you can see here, put the level on after you lay it and make sure that in all directions it is level. Okay, that way you're not going to get wobbly pavers. Also, if you're doing pairs like I am, you want to make sure that it's level in this direction across both as well. Now, as I was laying these pavers, I decided to stop doing my stepping stone pattern and actually lay a bit of a slab down because I want to put out a table and chairs out here. It's a beautiful place to sit in the afternoon. It gets lovely shade, lovely breeze. So I want to make the most of my garden and be able to sit out here and enjoy it. And the good thing about paving is if you change your mind, you can just pull it up and do it differently, and that's what I did. So I did leave this in the video so that you could see the process I went through when laying these, but that coloured paver there that I'm working with now, I end up moving that into a 3 width wide section of slab so that I can put my table and chairs on top of it. Now obviously, because there's a lot of dirt around, it does get a bit dusty, so I went out to just my local landscaping place and grabbed myself a few bags of cheap mulch that I can lay down. The mulch will keep that dust at bay a little bit until I'm ready to get a whole load delivered and lay it more thickly. But I needed to do something about the dust, so I just wanted to put a thin layer of mulch down to minimize dust, but also to start getting some nutrients and some protection for the plants that are already here. Once I finish planting it out, I'll come back through with a bit more and thicken it up, but it's already starting to look really good. We're about 8 months in here, and as you can see, the garden is starting to look really beautiful. The flowers are flowering. They absolutely love it out here. The conditions are perfect for these flowers. As soon as winter's over, they're going to just really start to take off. The native daisies have got runners ready to go and they're spreading rapidly. The spider lilies are just flourishing. So I'm really happy with the result of this garden so far.